morning, everyone, and welcome to the Augmented Society Network. This morning, we are very lucky indeed because we will be talking to Diane Bush, a Las Vegas-based artist and creator. Julie is with me this morning, so hello, Julie. And this is part of our Creativity Offers Us a New Formula for Life exhibition. We're moving into the 2.0 version. So I'm going to hand over to Julie Samuels, who will start our discussion. Good morning, everyone.
Diane, it's lovely to have you with us. Please, could you tell me a little bit about your creative journey, where you started?
Yeah, so from day one, I was involved in art because my older brother was an artist, and he got me drawing and painting immediately. And so up until the age of 17, it was always drawing and painting. But at 17, I met a young man who had a single lens reflex camera, and he was keen on to show me, show me how it worked. So I immediately got rid of the drawing and painting side because it wasn't challenging enough for me. So I became a photographer and trained in the UK at a technical college, which was a really superior photographic education compared to anything else. I sort of feel as if it was equivalent to sort of going to RIT, and there was a lot of physics and chemistry and math, something I'm not keen on and not good at, but because it was a means to an end, I embraced it and just slogged through it, and got what's called a City and Guilds certificate, which ended up as a sort of equivalent of a PhD if you were in America. So I didn't really have a BA. And when I came back to the States 10 years later, they said it was equivalent to a BA, and they let me enroll in a master's degree program. So I was talked into doing that. And I did not enjoy those 2 years of getting my master's degree. I was suffering from acute culture shock, having spent 10 years in England and then came back to the United States. Everybody was in a bad mood, having lost the Vietnam War, and they did not want to look at my black and white street photography. It reminded them of the 60s and bad time.
Yep.
Yeah. So got my master's degree, and right out of college, I ended up getting a job with our public television network. They needed a still photographer. That's when all TV stations had still photographers. We created stills that they used for newspaper print advertising and publicity, and I did headshots of the talent, and if there were famous guests coming on, I do that. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I got offered twice the salary at ABC. So I switched over to ABC, which I hated. It was horrible. Everybody was
Square.
Square. You're smart. And I only had one cohort, that my boss, the art director, so it was just the two of us who understood anything, it seemed. And then they fired, all the TV stations fired their still photographers. They realized that they didn't need us. They could just have us on contract. So I went to teaching, which was why I got the master's degree in the first place. And I had done some part-time teaching at a local college. So they asked me if I would apply for the full-time job. And I almost didn't get it because I said I didn't like to get up early in the morning. But he pushed my case, and they hired me, and I was there for 7 years. It was heaven. It was just heaven. I love teaching. You know, the first year is a little tricky, but once you get the hang of it, well, it was really wonderful because it was like a community college, and I had, you know, students aged 18 sitting next to students in their 80s and watching them interact. It was magic, you know, and it was a very small community college, so it's like a big happy family. It was wonderful, and my students got national awards, and you know, the nuns who ran the college loved me because I doubled the, you know, student enrollment, and I was a big star. So that was a lot of fun. And then my husband got a job in Las Vegas, and I realized that we could not live our senior years in snow and ice. It's too dangerous. So we moved out west to Las Vegas. And as soon as I hit town, I joined every arts organization I could find. I made friends with everybody at the university. David Hickey was here, and he was a big star. I volunteered at the Contemporary Arts Collective, and then they hired me to be gallery sitter, and then they hired me to be gallery director, and then I became president of the whole damn thing. So and I did that twice. So I got to know almost every artist in town, which was really good. And you know, it was an exciting time for the arts in Las Vegas, because the Contemporary Arts Collective really was the only independent organization that was showing contemporary art. The university was, of course, but the CAC was really a wonderful organization that brought great talent into the city. But the other thing that happened was I couldn't really make a living on the wages from the Contemporary Arts Collective, so I applied for a curator position with Clark County, a government entity here, and they hired me. So that's kept us afloat for the past 20 years. And throughout that, I've always continued my art practice. And so I've kind of always had 3 jobs. My day job, making art, and then I have a sideline in collectibles, as you can see.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's me.
I love the bit about the stills, how you worked in television with all the still images. So that's
Yeah.
what you've given us is actually this kind of wonderful overview, a history of television, which is absolutely fascinating.
So the whole thing about sewing came because in the last 10 years of my employment with the county, they moved me out of the arts, and they had me take over a senior center, and I'd never worked with seniors before, and I don't even know seniors. I never even knew my own grandparents. They were both gone, you know, by the time I came on board. So I really had no experience with older people. But I just loved them. I mean, basically, I was hired to listen to people's stories.
Wow.
That was kind of my job, you know. I mean, other than signing the pay stubs, and, you know, I had people under me I had to supervise. But it was really just listening to people's stories. It was a wonderful, wonderful job. I loved it. I loved the seniors. So when I got there, I found out that they had a sewing group, and I had just learned about yarn bonding. So I made this whole presentation for them using really old technology like overhead projectors. And And I showed them all the examples of yarn bombing from all over the world. And I didn't know if they were going to go for it, because they were very locked into their traditional, well, okay, it's Christmas and I have to knit and crochet things I'm going to give to my kids or grandkids for Christmas, or now it's Easter and we're going to make little whatever, it was very old school, but they went for it. I told them they were going to have worldwide fame, and I got them worldwide fame.
Wow. What was the average age?
Well, the senior center was taking people 50 and up. We had a couple in their 90s, but probably the typical age was 60, 70. Probably in their 70s. So, yeah.
And how many people were there roughly at the center?
Well, the center, had hundreds of people coming in and out. Some of them would just walk in, get their pool cue, and you didn't see them all day. They went to another building and they played pool all day, or ping pong. We were in a Chinese Asian neighborhood, so a lot of Asians playing ping pong and doing traditional dance, and it's very interesting. But in the sewing and crochet group, probably 50,
Yep.
coming and going. Yeah. And so
So what kind of things were they yarn bombing? I remember seeing some of your stuff on social media. Could you just elaborate more on that?
Yeah, we started small. So we started small, just like doing a couple trees in front of the center, and we did the hand railing, because can you imagine a metal hand railing in the summer in Las Vegas? You can't touch it, right? So we covered that in granny squares, and I did that for like 9 years in a row. And they loved it because it changed every year, and it was very bright, very colorful. And people could touch the railing, and I invented a way so that the yarn would not slip on the metal. And we got awards, statewide awards, and it was fun. But the big one was we covered a bridge that crosses over Maryland Parkway, and we did both sides of the bridge so people could see it going north or south. And that lasted about 6 months, considering the heat and the wind. And yeah, eventually it just had to come down. So, but people still remember that.
Yeah.
I think it was back in 2012.
So you were literally changing the environment, bringing creativity outside of the center and affecting everyone's environment.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So then actually we joined up, we became a sister organization with the LA Yarn Bombers, and they invited us to participate in some of their projects. So we would send them squares, and part of those squares, one project was to cover the front of the LA Crafts Museum. We took part in that. Another one was to create murals for the Gene Autry Museum. We participated in that. Another one was to, they did, inside an airport, they did a whole scene of trees in one of these glass cases at the LA airport. We participated in that. We sent them a tree, and then there was the LA indoor food market. It's downtown. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but we sent them squares, and they covered the columns with like Grecian, patterns, whatever.
I think I know. I think that's the one with all the neon at the entrance with all the different food vendors.
Yeah, food vendors. Yeah, it's fun. So so we participated. Then COVID hit, and it just took the sales out of all these big public art projects. But I recently went back because of you to work on this project. And I hooked up with the seniors again, because now I'd been retired for years. And I actually retired just when the COVID thing started. So they hadn't seen me, because of COVID. And my husband has long COVID. So I'm home a lot as a caregiver. And but your project forced me to go back, and I've started a new relationship with them. Same people, one or two new people, but a lot of the same people. So they're happy to see me. I'm happy to see them. And they agreed to participate in this by doing some embroidery on the handkerchiefs that I supplied. So yeah, and then I also promised them a t-shirt. So they all got and they learned how to do a t-shirt transfer, right? So we did it all, there, and I showed them how to do it. And they tried different methods and techniques, and yeah.
The real sense of community, though, isn't there? We talk about kind of all the social media, these kind of virtual kind of community and connections, but actually you're working in a real space, in a real physical space. You're actually working with real people, not digital or virtual people, which I think is wonderful. But also love the fact that when you're doing the yarn bombing, you were sending your squares out there to have it represented and shown in a different space. And that really is that kind of, that is kind of what community engagement really is about that kind of participation, which we actually, we talk about, but we don't do, because we do some of it online, but you're doing something actually, which is actually physical, which I think is just amazing.
Yeah, there's another way of doing things. Do I have it with me? I belong to a national group called the I gotta get this right. Hold on. It's called the Social Justice Sewing Federation, or Sewing League. And what they do is they send you things to sew, and then you send it back, and they put it in a big quilt or something. And I did some applique work, so they could put people's names in a quilt or banner. These are names of people who were killed by the police force, but never had any recourse, never never had their justice, basically. So there are lots of different organizations, national organizations that attack social justice issues, and I'm interested in right now, because it's an election year, we're working on voting, getting the vote out. So I'm doing a handkerchief per month that has to do with getting the vote out, using the word SEW.
Wow.
Okay.
So
Wow.
you went from the yarn bombing to focus on the word sew and playing on that word.
Yeah.
How did you get from that to that? Because I know obviously COVID was in the middle, but how did you form that as a starting point?
I have no idea. I mean, I'm always okay. So I do have an idea, because every election year I've been doing a really big project. It's kind of funny. What happened was I was snubbed by a gallery curator who basically asked work from every artist in town, but I wasn't included. And I'm thinking, what am I, chopped liver? They know me. I should have been in that, right?
Yeah.
People of lesser talents were in it, so I thought, okay, they've forgotten all about me. How am I going to reestablish my identity in this town? So it was election year, and I've been doing nothing but political satire for the past 20 years. So I decided I need to do a really big project. And so what I did was I came up with this concept. It's based on, you know, those ceramic plates that have people's pictures on them, like
Yeah.
presidents and no kings and queens and so that was my inspiration. And I thought, how can I combine photography with ceramics, something I'd never done. I wanted a new challenge. So I decided I'm going to put the photographs on the plates, and I knew there was a way to do this digitally. So I ended up buying a dye transfer printing machine and printer, I should say. And the project was called Dishing It Out 2016. And I invited artists from all over the country, though mostly I got artists from Buffalo, my hometown, and artists from Las Vegas to participate. And I asked them to produce a satirical image representing one of the 23 different candidates we had that year running for president. So, so they did, they responded and they sent me images, and then I put the images on decals, and then I used the dye sublimation printer to, you know, create the decals, and then the decals had to go onto the plates. And there was a lot of failure. There was a high failure rate in terms of calibrating the colors. It was very tricky, but I managed to get 5 sets of plates. So like 23 plates, 5 sets of plates. And I auctioned off one of the plates, and that raised $1,000. It went to the Las Vegas Academy, which is a high school for art students.
Mm-hmm.
And then another set of plates all went to the artists. So if you're one of the artists, you got your plate. And then I have another set of plates that's mine to keep. And then I have 2 other sets of plates I had hoped to sell to like a political collector or something. That never happened. I still have, I'm sitting on 3 sets of plates. Help.
Or we can find something to get
Oh,
them.
definitely. I can think of something. Yeah.
No. So they're beautiful plates with like, they're really heavy, and they have gold, 14 karat gold.
Wow.
Rim. They're beautiful plates. Anyway. And so every election year I've been doing, every 4 years, I've been doing a big project like that. And so what put me back on the map was that every month I had a different exhibit or performance piece or whatever. Like I tried to incorporate all the arts. One month we had a poetry contest, and I gave out handmade trophies that I made. And another month we had a performance where people were invited to smash the plates. You know, it was all about venting your frustration with all the election hoopla, you know, and just people were being bombarded. And it was all, I kind of touted it as a stress reliever, you know, for the artists, for the public. And it was all supposed to be funny and silly. And I had mugs made. So one exhibit was called Mugshot. You know, there were all these puns, you know, very silly puns. And so the very final exhibit was called The Final Tally. And, you know, Clinton lost and Trump won, and it was a big heartache. It was not a very happy party. But so, you know, that sort of got me on the election bandwagon again. And so this year it's monthly handkerchiefs. And I'm just doing this by myself. I'm not really bringing in the community as much as I did previous times. Again, just because I'm a caregiver as well as everything else.
So Julie and I've been talking about how creativity can offer us something new, something that makes the world a better place. and clearly you're doing that. Why do you think you operate, or why do you think you produce these things? What is it in you that drives you to react to the world in this way?
Well, I just posted a quote
I saw it. Yes.
on Facebook, and it's to help you just survive life.
Is it Kurt
More
Vonnegut?
than anything else, if you can express yourself, I think it helps you get through your own personal traumas. And again, just the stress of everyday living, whether it's music or writing or
I've got it here actually.
dancing. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think these are yours words to start. For those of you who don't get it, go into the arts. I'm not kidding. The arts are not a way to make a living. We all know that. They are very human. They are a very human way of making life more bearable. Practicing an art, no matter how well or badly, is a way to make your soul grow. For heaven's sake. Sing in the shower, dance to the radio, tell stories, write a poem to a friend, even a lousy poem. Do it as well as you possibly can. You will get enormous reward. You will have created something. Kurt Vonnegut. Yeah,
That's a very powerful piece, isn't it?
Yeah. I love seeing that this morning, Diane. Thank you.
So my father didn't get it. And he said, well, how can you, he's heard I was going into photography, and he said, well, can you make a living at it? And I said, well, Cindy Sherman's a millionaire. I think you can make a living at it if if you're lucky. She was at the right place at the right time. But and she has a lot of talent, of course. But yeah, people make money through the arts, but and I have another relation who doesn't understand worth unless it's translated into monetary terms. And what can you do but feel sorry for those people?
I think the world would be a poorer place. So I've been reading a lot about the reason we do these things, but also the ability to enter into a state of flow, a state where you are doing something for its own purpose, but it gives you a feeling of not necessarily always joy, but a feeling of warmth, something that makes you. I wonder how you feel when you're actually creating, you're sewing, for instance. Is it possible to describe?
Oh, I mean, I think it's purely the fact that you're doing something that's positive, i.e. you're making something, right? So you get satisfaction from the fact that you're making something out of almost nothing. And while you're creating it, you can't be thinking, well, you shouldn't be thinking about, when is that bill due? And, the laundry needs to be hung out, screw that stuff. It's relief from life, from life's pressures and anxieties. And very few people have lives that are completely free of anxiety. So, but it's just satisfying to make something,
So
yesterday I was talking to
anything. Sorry.
Yesterday I was talking to one of the other contributors for the exhibition, and she makes pottery, and she was saying about how using the clay is just for her in the moment that she is working with everything else going on in life. That time that she's there, she said that's all she focuses on. That's all she can think about. And actually that is kind of the mental health and well-being of being in that state of mind where you forget about the washing and the chores and the bills. I mean, that is transformational, isn't it? for yourself. Then also, I guess, if people see your work and they respond, that's also a bonus. But actually, to be able to do, just to say, you know what, it makes me feel good, makes me feel better, is really, really important.
Yeah, it's so good for one's mental health, you know, and then the satisfaction of people responding to the work, of course, is another bonus. But even if you like Vonnegut says that, you know, it's a bad poem and no one likes your work, it's still, you had that time, you had that mental time to devote to it, and you weren't devoting your mental time to worrying about climate change and how, you know, we're all screwed.
Yeah. And when you worked with the senior kind of community, did you find that for them it was a way of thinking, you know, of not thinking about life differently because they were doing something, you know, there was a shared experience there? Did they talk much about how they felt about that?
Well, you know, they don't have to talk about it because they are there for connectivity, for connecting. And I'm sure you've seen the research that shows that human connection means more for longevity than smoking, diet, or exercise.
Definitely.
Connecting with other people and your relationships with other people are the most important thing that will help you live a long life. And these people, most of them are widows, or they're single through choice. And they come, whether they like the project they're doing or not, they come because they want to hang out with the other participants. They need that. And so I sit there and I listen to what they talk about. You know, I mean, it's just.
Do you have some
So
favorite
it's
stories?
I mean, you know, they give each other tips, you know, and things that help them through that time of their life, whether it's safety tips or how to use their phone or, you know, yeah, it's all about relationships. And so that's why they're there. I don't even know if they care about the stuff they make. I mean, I think they do. They enjoy it, you know. Some go to play cards. Some go to movement classes. Whatever it is, they find something, you know, so they have a reason to come. Some come every day. Some come just for the sewing class. Some come just for the Scrabble, you know what I mean? Whatever it is. But seniors, we all need that connection. That's going to keep you alive more than getting off the cigarettes, more than your diet, more than exercise. That's what the scientists say. I believe them.
So for them, there's they find different ways to express themselves, don't they? Whether it's through Scrabble, whether it's ping pong, or you know, yarn bombing or stitching.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that they do, this kind of keeps them kind of functioning and going, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the wonderful thing about that particular center is that they have a lot of folk dance. So they're learning and keeping their traditions alive.
Wow.
You know, and you see these gals parading through in their full kimonos and attire, and they put on performances for the other seniors. I mean, you know, it's really wonderful. They have Tai Chi and, you know, no,
I know where I need to retire.
Yeah. So I think we're bringing this to a close, but Julie and I are asking the question, you know, is creativity a new formula for life? We're trying to put creativity back into the center, into the apex of our beings, and then creating more creative opportunities. I guess my question to you is this a better way to live?
Of course, because, you know, that self-expression is a way of being heard, and everybody wants to be heard. So, you know, expressing yourself in a creative way rather than maybe just shouting or stamping your foot or writing an angry email. You know, doing something that is positive. And I try to use humor in my work. So, you know, I think part of the whole stress reduction is about, you know, making people laugh and finding some amusement. I come from a Jewish background, and we always try to use humor to offset the bad stuff. So, you know, it's a family tradition.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you,
Julie,
that's wonderful.
any?
No, no, absolutely wonderful. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. It's absolutely fascinating. I know where I'm going to retire, Vegas.
I can't afford to retire.
Well, you
Diane,
will someday.
yeah, thank you so much. That was absolutely phenomenal.
Well,
If you
thanks.
just stay on the line briefly, but we'll say goodbye for now. And thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
All right. Thank you. Enjoy.